Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
On this Camper Report Show, we always try to introduce you to interesting RVers. And we're going to do that in this show when we meet the Wayward Waggs. And you'll find out they are anything but wayward.
Sounds like dogs. I don't know. I haven't seen your section. I don't even know what you're doing it on. But
we always try to keep people guessing.
Good. All right. And I've got Michael Boyink, who we had on our other show, and brought him back on this one because he's the author of a brand new book called Driven to Wonder, spending 8 years on the road full time with his wife and 2 kids, went through 3 RVs, and he's written a book that's kind of like a group of magazine articles, 333 pages, 126 chapters, 500 photographs. It's going to be the book of the year in the RV industry.
2 great features. Plus, we're going to be bringing you up to date on all of the daily news from the RV industry. I'm slowing down a little bit because it's not often that I'm part of the news, but in this case, I'm part of the news. And you know what? I like being the interviewer more than the interviewee, but we're going to talk about that plus a whole bunch of other things right here. Where, Bob?
On the Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody. And welcome back to the Camper Report Show. This is our news segment. My name is John DePietro. His name is Bob Zagami. And you see right behind me is going to be my home for the next 3 weeks. And it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful Dynamax Europa, courtesy of Brian Clemens and our friends at Dynamax/Forest River. Bob, it's quite a machine. You've seen some videos of it. It's just absolutely amazing.
Bye, John. See ya. Have a good tour.
Well, they're one of our big supporters of your Do It Now Tour 22, which is a positive experience showing why people should go now and not wait to go RVing. And despite the gas prices and other challenges, if you're planning to do it, do it. And we got a bunch of supporters that, are on there. We'll flash up the supporter sign, but certainly you're going to be riding in style in that luxury Super C. Kind of jealous, but and you'll be reporting every week. You'll
reporting right here.
Find a way to work it in here.
In fact, we're already on the road, and depending upon when you see this show, we'll be in a different places because we're not going to stay at any one place for a long period of time. But the whole purpose of it is to let people know that the world isn't ending. Gas prices are high. Yes, they are high. They've never been this high in our history. But the reality is RVers are very resilient people. And you know what? Let's segue right into the first segment. Winnebago's profits are up 52% for the third quarter. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, revenue is $1.5 billion. They just continue to explode. And a lot of that is the acquisition of their boating division, having picked up Chris Craft and Barletta boats last year. So when you combine everything that they have, their revenues came from, the towable side is really increasing, $805 million in towables. This is in 1 quarter now, by the way, one quarter. The motorhome was $516 million, and the marine division was $126 million in a quarter.
Yep.
So they are really rocking in terms of the hitting on all cylinders, you might say. But the 1.5 billion was increased 52% over last year. Organic growth of 41%. And during that time, they actually returned $148 million in cash to the shareholders through the third quarter fiscal year to date. So
amazing. Well,
that's what the shareholders got back.
So some of those quarterly numbers that you were just reciting a few years ago, those would have been annual numbers.
Well, if you just go back a few years ago, Winnebago was a $3 billion industry. At this rate, they're going to become a $6 billion industry. Yep. We've seen that in other companies too, and that's that 2-year growth pattern in the COVID cycle where people just gravitated and discovered, if you will, what RVs were and how enjoyable they're going to be. And that trend is going to continue. That's not going to go away.
And when you say in the COVID era, the fact is you and I know the COVID area well and tie it in with Winnebago because we were at their dealer meeting in where were we, in Palm Springs,
California, right?
March of 2020. And then the next day, the world shut down. So we made it home. But Airstream is also doing well. And CNN did a report on what's happening with RVers with $5 gas. Okay. Now,
it was presented kind of interesting. Yeah. It's almost like they were surprised that the RVers were still out there. And this is something that we've seen with our dealers and with the manufacturers, that yes, there's inflationary challenges, and yes, there's high gas prices, but the demographics of RVers and campers now is they're going to go camping, and they're proving it. They're going back to the pumps, and $5 and a little bit higher elsewhere in the country. But the way they put it was they said the RV industry is a pandemic winner, that it is a bit surprisingly still thriving, and production is way up with over 600,000 vehicles last year. Thor Industry, which owns Airstream and Jayco, their sales are up around 35% in the past 3 months compared to the same period last year. And Thor still has nearly $14 billion worth of backlog. And they're a $14 billion company.
Yep.
So they could stop today and they got enough manufacturing to take them through the whole next 12 months. It's crazy.
I was just in Elkhart 2 days ago, driving that unit back to Massachusetts. And I will tell you this, the activity going on in Elkhart with RV related, we drove by a few of the factories and they are cranking at full capacity. And there's still everywhere you look, help wanted, help wanted, help wanted signs. And you know what, CNN may have been surprised, but all the research that we did, especially at the end of the show season, we didn't talk to anyone who said, I'm putting off my vacation because of high gas prices. No, they may switch and stay closer to home, but they're still going to use those units.
Yep, they are.
Exactly. So we want to also talk a little bit about the news that is hitting the area, that the president and those in Washington are asking for a suspension of the gas tax. And Bob, if they delete the federal gas tax, is gas going to go from $5 to $2.50 a gallon? What is going to be the impact of that?
Not even close. And I am not impressed. We don't want to make this show political, but right. I am not impressed with this. Just if this is the best thing that the country can do for those who are burdened by the high gas tax price, this is not going to do anything. It'll take 18.4 cents a gallon of gas. Diesel will be 24.4. Now that equates on the gas. Now most people that you talk to, it's cost them over $50 to fill up the tank. It's not unusual. I mean, I've got a small SUV. We got a small SUV. It cost me $75 to fill it up. So let's assume it cost you $100 to fill up your gas tank. That means you're going to save $3.60.
Wow. Now, what are you going to do with all that? What are you going to do with all that extra money?
You go next door and buy a cup. I don't think Starbucks is, you pay more. You'll pay more than cover the cost of your Starbucks coffee.
You won't even cover it.
And if they think that's going to make people feel better, if this is what they can do, the whole intent is supposed to be make people feel better about the price of gas or the inflationary tactics. And this is going to do absolutely nothing. Yep. And it's only going to be for a short period of time. If they pass it, by the way, there's no guarantees that this will pass.
I'm
not getting excited about that one at all.
On my way back from Elkhart, when I was getting diesel fuel, I have to pull into the truck lanes with that. You don't pull into the little car lanes. And the pump from the person ahead of me in the pump, their total was $1,475 for gas. And it was about 225 gallons. So I looked at it and I said, hey,
Well,
that's where we
how
are.
much is it going to cost you to fill up that baby behind you?
Well, it's 100 gallons. So do the math.
100 gallons?
Yep.
That's at least six on diesel. That's going to be six or $700 every time you fill
Right.
it up.
Exactly. So the beauty of it is that with 100 gallons, you can go a pretty good distance with it. And then you got to put DEF in it too, that
Right.
diesel emission fluid. So, you know, they should open a branch of Bank of America or the local bank at every truck stop, because I don't know how the truckers do it. Even the guys that are, you know, that use those souped up pickup trucks to haul RVs back, you know, travel trailers back.
Coming back out of Elkhart.
That's gonna do it, but people are still gonna buy the product. So with that,
you know, that's one of the reasons why we had to have so many supporters for this.
Do it now.
This trip is so you could pay the gas, and I'll just run through them quickly. Obviously, Forest River and Dynamax. On the campground side, Blue Water Development, KOA, and Sun Resorts. Our media partners are Woodall's and RV Business, who of course we get our news section from. And then our parent company on this program, the RV Life Network, is providing you with the RV Pro Trip Wizard, and that's going to guide your trip. And then good friend Walt Burns at Easy Care, which has protective policies, insurance, and aftermarket specialties. Easy Care is on there also. And I know when you're traveling, you're going to have a sign on the door, right? We're not going to put decals on that beautiful motorhome.
No. We have the sign. We have the magnetic sign. Magnetic sign. So we're looking forward.
People out there, watch for John running down 95 and for the next 3 weeks, back and forth, and
stay here on the Kim Report Show, because we are going to bring you up to date every week. So with that being said, we've got 2 great segments, and we want to thank you so far for joining us, but don't go away.
I'm Jesse from Outsiders Calling, and I love adventurous family travel with my wife Jenny and our son Tucker.
For over 3 years, we've RV'd across the US and Mexico, and it's tough to find places that meet all our needs.
Now we plan our trips with the RV Trip Wizard. Pull it up in the RV Life app, select it, and go.
It helps us discover amazing new places to grow together as a family.
RV Trip Wizard with the RV Life app is an awesome trip planning combination.
You can get both for one low annual price. Check out rvlife.com to learn more.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. Special guest today is Michael Boyink, the author of Driven to Wonder. And if you haven't heard about the book, you're going to want to buy it after I'm done with Michael. There you go. Good, Michael. All right, 3 years in the making. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you get into this gig.
Yeah, so we were the typical suburban family. We had 2 kids, the house, the station wagon, didn't have the dog. Working at home and homeschooling, and some point during all of that, we thought, hey, we could just do this anywhere. We could homeschool on the road. I had an online business. We could work on the road. And just through a course of events, we decided to chase that dream. So September of 2010, we handed the keys to our house to a friend and hopped in a truck and a 5th wheel and took off from Holland, Michigan. And the intent at that point was to do it for a year, because we didn't know if we'd like it or drive each other nuts, or if the RV would fall apart or what. And 1 year led to 3 years, led to 5 years, led to 8 years. So, and now it's been, like you say, 3 years or so, long enough to write the book, just to kind of process what happened and capture some of the stories and tidy that all up to give to the kids and future grandkids, just about what the heck we did for those 8 years.
Give us the composition of the family and who else came along for the ride.
Yeah, so it was my wife and I, and then I have 2 kids. My oldest was a boy, he is a boy, and then a daughter younger. So their son is 25 now. My daughter will be 24 shortly.
What, as a collective, when you look at this thing back, and you said it took 3 years in the writing, one of the things that I love about the book was the way you formatted it. It's one of those books that you can open it up anywhere. It's a series of little stories. And
I don't know how you can see them, but they're just, I call them, they're kind of like a magazine feature story. They're 1 page to 4 pages. You can pick it up and read it anywhere, and just kind of get a glimpse of what happened to us in one location.
What in your background made you do it that way? What were you trying to accomplish in doing it that way?
I think part of it was just, it gave me a way to get through it. I actually had started writing a book before this book, and it was going to be kind of a big story about families of all types. So families who took off in an RV and families who live on sailboats, and it was called Ditching Suburbia. So it was like any way out of the suburbs was fair game. The trouble is, I have a tendency to do this, I made it ever more complex as I got into it. I wanted to tell the story of, why do we even live in suburbs? Why are these, why are houses the cool thing? And it got so big that I ended up never actually completing it. Well, so this book, I'm like, I'm going to chip away at it. It's that how do you eat an elephant thing, one bite at a time. I'm just going to do a chapter a week, and they're going to be self-contained, so that no matter how many I do, no matter where I run out of stories, I can put them together and make a book out of it.
And in a book, it is. This is to hold up the side view of that.
This is
not a Saturday morning quick review.
No, this is 333 pages, 126 chapters, and 500 photos.
What's your favorite story in the book?
My favorite one is one I'm not going to disclose on here.
That's a good approach. Make them buy the book and then see what they like. Yeah.
It concerns toads. So if you see reference to a toad story, that's all I'm going to say about it. But I don't want to give away like the sweet spot of the book either. It's a story I want people to come across fresh and have it taken by surprise.
Well, let me ask it the other way. Which story do you think, or do you know your wife loves the most of what's in there?
I tell the story in there of her learning to tow the RV and back it into a campsite.
Well, that should be a good one.
Yeah. So, because we were pretty traditional, like I got them all trained on getting us hitched up, because what we learned was in campgrounds, you're more likely to meet your neighbors when you're unhitching or hitching. So we learned to all do it. So if someone came over to talk, because we never wanted to shoot people away, we wanted to talk to them. So we learned all the chores so that if I got involved in a conversation, they could continue hitching us up or unhitching. But when it came to the actual driving, I did all of that. And then we met a couple who, they were the same way. He always drove, and then learned that he had a heart attack while he was driving a Class A, towing a tow vehicle. So she had to pull him out of the seat, get behind the chair, get the whole thing stopped, get the ambulance coming. And then once he was carried off, figure out how to get the rig to a campground and get it all set up. So that kind of spooked us a bit.
I can see where it might.
Yeah. So we had a day in Florida where my allergies were just really, really bad that day. I'm in no shape to drive. It was the winter, so we tried to extend the campsite, couldn't do that. Other people had reserved it. It's like, well, we got to move, and you're going to have to do it. So she did great. It was Florida in the winter, so it's kind of crazy traffic, and she did fine towing it. And when we got to the other campsite, I call it divine intervention. They had assigned us the handicap spot. And if you've been in handicap spots in campgrounds, they're typically bigger.
Wider.
So it gave her a nice big target to back that. That was the 34-foot fifth wheel at that point. So she took one try and didn't make it. So she went around the loop and came back again. And that time she got it in nice and square and straight and did well. So
how did you determine where you were going to go each day? Were you a detailed planner, or were you just get up in the morning and say, which way do I want to go?
Yes. Different phases of the trip. There were times where we literally just got up and I'm like, I'm going to drive west. And my wife would kind of curl up and start taking, if we got up early, she would just kind of go back to sleep and wake up in a couple hours. Okay, where are we? And just kind of figure it out from there. At other times, one of the ways that we made money on the road was we had a training business. So we would schedule classes in different cities. So and those times we were on a schedule to be somewhere. And so then we were much more, detailed about our planning. But yeah, we were all over the board at different times.
Well, it sounds like a dream life. You had the flexibility of your own schedules.
Mm-hmm.
To homeschool the kids. You're able to go wherever you want, whenever you wanted. Was there a downside to being on the road 8 years with the family?
Yeah, certainly there were. So the businesses that we launched on were targeted to a product that was not my product. We were kind of a third-party vendor for a software product. That product kind of nosedived in popularity about halfway through our trip. So all of our income went with it. So we had to kind of adapt and figure out, okay, how are we going to make money now? And on the upside, being in the RV gave us flexibility. So we took a work camping job to kind of cover some of our costs during that time. And we kind of refactored our business. We were doing web development, and we kind of turned it into a content studio. So I started creating content for other companies. So, but yeah, there was those challenges. Raising kids, you're always going to have challenges. We actually launched our oldest from the RV during the middle of that 8 years. And we kept wondering, how do you launch a kid from a moving vehicle with no road rash?
At least stop for a cup of coffee and say goodbye, right?
Right. That was about it.
When you look back at this, you had more than one RV, correct?
Yeah, we had 3 total. We left with a 30-foot bunkhouse fifth wheel. The bunks were kind of small, and the kids were 12 and 13, so they weren't done growing yet. So in the first couple of years, they literally each grew like 6 inches, I think. And after a couple of years use, we just knew we needed a new one. So we upsized to a 34-foot fifth wheel with a bigger bunkhouse. And we were in that one, I think, 3 or 4 years. And then the kids were gone. So we downsized into a Class B camper van.
That's quite a selection of RVs.
Yeah.
The thing about the book is it's coming out at a great time. We have a million more RVers out there, and probably a couple of million more that want to be an RVer. And what I like about it, it's not an encyclopedia. It's not a how-to. It's kind of a travel log and education type book. And I understand it's doing really well on Amazon. It's only been out a couple of weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, we published it on May 24th, and today's June 20th. So yeah, a little over 3 weeks. Yeah, at various times we've had, number one seller in family travel or number one seller in travel guides. And, those Amazon does those things hourly. So it kind of comes and goes. But, for an entirely self-published DIY effort, out there competing with books put out by publishing houses, I'm quite pleased with it.
I think it's going to do really well because, again, the way that you wrote it and set the articles apart, it's something that if you only have 15 minutes between putting the dinner on the stove and, waiting for it to cook, grab yourself a glass of wine, sit down, and you can read. You can read 2 or 3 of the stories that are in it. So it's and the way that it's very well written, and the photography is fantastic. Were you a photographer before?
I have been I wouldn't call myself a professional. I've never done it for money. But a very avid enthusiast. Well, I guess, I ran a newspaper here in Missouri for a couple of years, and I was the main photographer for the newspaper. So I guess in that sense, I was a professional for a while, but creatively not a professional. But
well, they augment the articles very well. So somebody that reads the article can visually see that and check mark and say, put the little yellow Post-it note, say, we want to go here, we want to go there, we want to do this. Now you've had a chance to have the book out there. What kind of response are you getting from people? What kind of questions or feedback are you getting, or is it too early?
Well, we've gotten a bit of feedback. I was hoping for more Amazon reviews by now, but we've got a couple, both of them very complimentary, both 5-star reviews. Of course, all the family loves it. We got great reviews from the funny thing was, I didn't realize until I think probably a couple of days before I published it that I hadn't ever told my parents that I was writing a book.
In 3 years, you never.
In 3 years, because
it was such that conversation.
No, we never did, because it was such a big project, and I'm like, well, maybe I won't finish it or whatever. I'm just going to wait. So, but I kind of forgotten that, and then I realized it again. Like, well, I'm just going to keep mum about it now. So I just shipped them one, and didn't tell them, and it was coming. And so that was kind of fun to get that phone call, and of course they're over the moon enthusiastic about it. Showing they're in an RV park up in Michigan, and they're showing it around the happy hour and stuff. So that was fun.
Well, so they're RVers, so they can actually relate quite nicely to what you went through during that period of time.
Oh yeah, my folks have had more RVs than I even can count anymore. I think the only thing they haven't had is a fifth wheel, but they've had about everything else.
That's fantastic. Our guest today is Michael Boyink, author of Driven to Wonder. Any closing words for our fans, Michael? I wish you well with the book. Like I say, I think we're going to be seeing that on a lot of bookshelves, and a lot of the big box stores, because it is a perfect RVing book, and it's coming at a great time for the industry right now.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I want to say is that it's what I like about it is it tells the complete story. So if you're thinking about getting into full-time RVing, you can see how we did it, kind of what happened to us while we were doing it, but then also why we stopped doing it, what got us off the road, and what that's been like. And that's a perspective I couldn't find when we were looking to start full-timing.
The transition on and the transition off. So you went up the on-ramp and drove for 8 years and got off the off-ramp.
Right.
I'll wait to catch that when my copy comes in. Michael, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on the Camper Report Show.
Thanks for having me.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. It's John DePietro, and you know, the people that are interviewed the least are the ones that interview others.
That's true.
So today we are at a rally for Alliance owners, and we are talking to two Alliance owners who go by the name of the Wayward Waggs, and they are Dustin and Leslie. Hey, welcome to a show about you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
So tell our audience who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Well, we are the Wayward Waggs. I'm originally from Missouri. She's originally from Florida, but I was in the Army for 20 years, so we traveled around a lot, and we actually call Alabama home now because that's where I retired from. That's where we left our daughter in college, and that's where we launched our full-time journey from.
And how long ago, Leslie, was that full-time journey launched?
Well, we started in the house still. We did the whole downsizing process.
Okay.
Recorded all that. So it's probably been, what, 3.5 years since we started the journey? But only full-timing for 2.5 years.
Okay. And you're still speaking to each other?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We used to work together.
Oh, yeah.
Until we try to back in the trailer, and then we go for short spans of not speaking to each other anymore.
You know, I was at a RV dealer store the other day, and they had a shirt that said, "I'm sorry for what I said when you were backing in."
Yes.
Exactly.
Or that type thing. So Leslie, what has been the most pleasant surprise that you've experienced so far with full-time RVing?
Boy.
You're supposed to say, John, that's a great question.
That is an awesome question, John. Most people probably would say quality time with their spouse, but because we originally had that even before we full-time, we worked together in the same department in the hospital, so we spent lots of quality time together. But I think for us, it's the low pace, the peace and quiet, and we work on our time. We're not on anybody else's schedule. We don't want to move, we don't move. I love it.
I think it's been said that you guys still generate a revenue based upon the work that you do. Tell us what that activity is, sir.
We do. We run a YouTube channel, like you said, called the Wayward Waggs, and we take a portion of everything that we earn on all of our social media platforms, and about once every 3 months or so, when we have enough money, we donate to veterans in need or veteran organizations.
Veteran charities.
Yes, sir.
Which is a very nice thing to do. What would you say to other people that are considering, well, let's take a two-step question. Number one, buying their first RV, and number two, taking the giant leap and going full-time?
Buying the RV, be thorough, do your research. Don't just buy the first thing you fall in love with. Otherwise, we would have bought 7 RVs because I fell in love with a lot of them. But whichever ones check the boxes the most, that's what you pay.
Yeah, and take the time to actually walk through them, because there's all these videos on YouTube and they all look really great on YouTube.
Yeah.
But go to your local dealer or go to a show, actually walk through them, open the cabinets, test stuff out, because a lot of times what you see on YouTube is not what you get in person.
That's correct.
Right. And would you ever say rent one first?
I think it'd be difficult, because for our lifestyle, we knew we needed a 5th wheel size living space, and the ones that you can rent are generally smaller than that. So yeah, if you're just want to test the lifestyle, that'd be good. But to test out the living space, that'd be a little bit difficult. But
if you know somebody who has one and will let you take it out, that would be wonderful.
Or go out with friends who already have one. That's
Yeah.
a good idea too.
Okay, exactly. So we are at an Alliance rally. There's about 250 coaches here, which turns out to about 500 people. Have you been to a rally before where everybody's had the same unit as we look in the background and see all
No.
those?
Never.
No.
No, this is awesome. And most of the times in the parks we go to, we were lucky if we see one other alliance.
Yeah.
But they are starting to pop up more frequently. But seeing them all in one spot is very cool.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, so it's a pretty new brand.
Yeah.
What have you found to be in common, or have you found anything in common with the other campers, if you will, your campers this week?
Well, a lot of them are retired like us, so that's nice to just hang out and chill with other retired people. I think we're one of the younger ones, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're in regular campgrounds, you always have the RV type conversations. But when you're at a rally like this and you're all in the same brand, you can get way more into the details of it and start talking about your brand specifics as opposed to just RV stuff in general.
Yeah. Now, before you took the leap to buy your first RV, had either of you ever RV'd as children growing up?
I camped for hunting, but it was mostly in small travel trailers, but nothing like, I'd never pulled a fifth wheel. I had never camped in a fifth wheel. I had never dumped any tanks. I had never done any of that stuff.
I never camped a day in my life. Camping in my family was the Marriott.
The Marriott, right? Yeah.
So it was going to be a more drastic thing for me than him.
And other than that, for recreationally when we were kids, we did some tent camping and stuff like that. We weren't that well off, so we didn't have the nice to have stuff.
Glorified campers.
So a little bit of camping, and of course I did some camping in the Army, but that
In
wasn't
the Army, yeah.
that wasn't voluntary.
That was a different kind of tent, and the tow vehicles were a little bit
A
different.
little different,
Exactly.
A little bit different. So now that you've got 52 weeks a year to play, how do you plan your time as to where you're going to be, what time of year you're going to be in certain areas, and holidays and other members of the family? How do you determine all that?
Well, we plan around things like this. We plan around things like the rally, the Tampa show. We plan around seeing family, because we have family down in Florida, we have family in Texas, we have family in Missouri. So we plan that around kind of like the seasons too. So we'll go visit family in Florida in the wintertime, and we'll go visit family up in Missouri up in the summertime so that we're not freezing or getting burnt up.
Yeah. So basically, you can leech space off your relatives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
Okay, final thoughts, Leslie.
Oh gosh.
There's no such thing as a final thought, right?
No joke.
No regrets?
No regrets.
No, we're still
Absolutely no
loving it.
regrets.
Yeah, still loving it, and we are loving stuff like this. We are loving the community, the RV community, and especially the Alliance community. It's just nice to be around like-minded people that have the same interests, the same hobbies, and that love getting out and enjoying RVs as much as we do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell us about your RV channel, your YouTube channel. What are the topics that you go over, and how can people find it?
Well, I like to tell people that we are a travel channel. We just happen to live in an RV full time because we document our travels more than we do talk about like RV gadgets and campgrounds
Destinations
and
and
stuff
stuff,
like
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
we just kind of turn the camera on and bring you along for the journey.
It's like a day in a life.
Yeah.
A day in
us.
the life. There we go. A day in the life of the Wayward Waggs. We want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks
And
for having
remember,
us.
folks, this is the Camper Report Show.